updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, adding to their desire to protect people in this country legally who've committed violent crimes, and just in this country legally, but it certainly includes those who may be gang affiliated, think Maryland man, and may have even committed violent crimes. Adding to that list where they operate in the gray zone, the gray area that Douglas Murray wrote about, not condoning violence, but not condemning it. Add narco-traffickers to the list. After Trump and Rubio's pronouncements about the military strikes against narco-traffickers that have been posted, identified TDA or cartel members trafficking in drugs and being taken out by American military. They were asked both about that last week, and here's what Secretary of State Marco Rubio had to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, the question is, bottom line, these are drug boats. If people want to stop seeing drug boats blow up, stop sending drugs to the United States.
But does it matter if it's in the United States?
Well, these are all in international waters. The boat.
Do a strike in the United States, or if Northern
Well, that's a different matter. Now you're talking about a law enforcement matter. In this particular case, there are people traveling on international waters headed towards the United States with hostilities in mind, which includes flooding our country with dangerous, deadly drugs, and they're going to be stopped. And that's what's happening. And in the case last week, you saw there was a submarine. It was a submarine. It was a submersible. That's a drug boat all the way through. We know what these boats are. The president just said it. We tracked them from the very beginning. We know who's on them, who they are, where they're coming from, what they have on them. If you're running drug boats, you're in grave danger.
So there's some of the technical details, and here's the general philosophy, the back and forth that Trump had with Phil Wegman from Real Clear Politics last week.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah.
A moment ago, you said that if Secretary Hegseth went to Congress and briefed them on the operations
No, we will go, I said.
You will go. And
we
it
will
would
go.
be difficult for them to object.
I don't see any loss in going. No reason not to. They'll always complain, we should have gone. So we're going to definitely, I'd like to just tell you, let's go. We'll go.
And Mr.
We're going to
President,
tell them what we're going to do, and I think they're going to probably like it, except for the radical left lunatics.
And Mr. President, if you are declaring war against these cartels and Congress is likely to approve of that process, why not just ask for a declaration of war?
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay? We're going to kill them. They're going to be like dead. Okay? Yeah.
Like dead. Okay, I got it. For more on this topic and several others, we're pleased to be joined by Stephen Bucci for our weekly conversation. Stephen is served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official. Now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, we're going to kill them like dead so long as they're in international waters, because we've got the drop on them and they're a designated terrorist group, and that's that. Stephen? Do we have Stephen?
I'm back.
Oh, there we go. So what say you to what Trump and Rubio had to say last week?
Well, first, the idea of a declaration of war, we haven't done a declaration of war in a long time. But what we do more frequently now is a thing called an authorization for the use of force, an AUF. And it's the president going to Congress, briefing them, letting them know what he plans to do, letting them know the parameters of it, and then doing it. Right now, we're in the period, there's a grace period that goes with the War Powers Act that a president can take military action for up to a certain number of days in emergency situations without getting that authorization of the use of force, and then by the end of that period, you're supposed to either get one or decide the operation's done. That process is ongoing. I think it's something we should do. It gives a complete legal authorization for this use without any question, even as the president lovingly calls them, the lunatic left can't argue with that. If Congress gives them that authorization for the use of force, then there's no question. It's legal, it's legitimate, and they can do it. It is appropriate against a terrorist organization. That's what we had against Al-Qaeda. We included ISIS under that since ISIS had come out of Al-Qaeda. This would be a new one, and I think that's needful. As far as the efficacy of doing it, of taking out those drug boats, it makes perfect sense. I mean, these are not cabin cruisers or, repurposed, pleasure boats. They are boats built specifically to elude our surface vessels, radar, all that kind of stuff. And we can now, with the observation and surveillance capabilities we have, we can find them, we can follow them out into international waters, and we can remove them. Seems like a no-brainer to me.
Daniel Hannan, former British MP, writing about this in The Guardian. Restoring democracy to Venezuela would be in the interest of every country except Russia, Cuba, and Nicaragua. If even half the emigres return home, Venezuela would boom. For those emigres represent the most entrepreneurial portion of the population. Oil would flow again, bringing down prices globally. And no less important, that the decade-long march of autocracy across the globe would suffer an important regional reverse. Why is this any of America's responsibility? Theodore Roosevelt answered the question in 1904 in response, appropriate enough, to a debt crisis in Venezuela, which had triggered European intervention, saying, quote, chronic wrongdoing or an impotence which results in a general loosening of the ties of civilized society may ultimately require intervention by some civilized nation, and in the Western Hemisphere, the adherents of the United States to the Monroe Doctrine may force the United States, however reluctant, in flagrant cases of wrongdoing or impotence, to the exercise of an international police power. That was Teddy Roosevelt. In other words, writes Hannan, when a country in the Americas falls into such a disastrous condition that the entire region is feeling the effects, it falls to the U.S. to act as the adult. Is that a fair summation of what you think the Trump outlook is?
I think it is, and it's not just because we're trying to be altruistic to the benefits for the rest of the world. Those benefits that MP mentioned are specifically applicable to us. Venezuela is one of the nexus points of the drug importation system, the worst kind of drugs. The Tren de Agua cartel members are pretty horrific. The ones that came here were instantaneously involved in all sorts of crimes, so they have a beachhead here. We need to remove them. They are sheltered by...
Did we lose Stephen?
I'm back.
Oh, back?
Yep.
No? Oh, okay.
This would benefit America tremendously. It would also have a lot of splashover benefits to the rest of the world and to the people of Venezuela. So yes, I think he's spot on.
Tom Nichols, he of The Atlantic and MSNBC, he knows what's really going on here, Stephen, and this is what's really going on. This is a setup not for regional stability and prosperity in Venezuela, but something much more nefarious.
The American president has said, I can point the U.S. military any place I want and kill anyone I want. That eventually is going to become a principle in the domestic use of the military.
Yes.
He is acclimating people to the notion that the military is his private army unconstrained by law, unconstrained by norms, unconstrained by American traditions. And that, I don't really think this has anything to do with drugs. I mean, sometimes I wonder how far he's going to go to stop the release of the Epstein files and how many distractions he's going to throw at us. But this is about getting out from under his already dismal record, his record low approval ratings, his struggling with a scandal, and he is now saying, I am going to acclimate the American public to the use of military force anywhere I deem it appropriate under any circumstances. And I may well, the president may be thinking, I may well have us in a war by the time the elections roll around, which will enable me to say any opposition to me and my party is basically treason and unpatriotic.
Well, I mean, just a point of order, his allegedly record low approval ratings are higher than Obama's at this point in his second term. But okay. Anyway, the idea that this is all one big wag the dog for Trump to use as his private military to start a war and force, a folding in the interests of patriotism to whatever he is doing with the military.
That was one of the most amazing works of fiction I've ever heard. And was that on The View or someplace like that? Because somebody was cheerleading for him as he was speaking.
MSNBC. So basically the same thing.
It's just, that is nonsense. There is absolutely no evidence of that. That is pure 100% fanciful speculation. Oh, and by the way, it sort of, is a way of attacking the man that they can't figure out how to defeat. And how to stop from doing these things they don't like fighting crime in our cities and getting rid of illegal aliens. Look, just because you don't like a man doesn't mean what he's doing is treason or violates the Constitution or anything else. Trump has not done anything, has not overturned any laws, has not, violated the rights of our citizens in any way, shape, or form other than in the fevered minds of MSNBC and CNN and all the other loonies. So, I love it when they sound so authoritative, and it's complete hogwash, and that's what that was.
Moving over to Eastern Europe, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte had this to say last week about the prospect for peace in Eastern Europe, and it was very complimentary of Trump, basically saying he's the only one who gets this done.
Well, I have total confidence in President Trump, and he is the only one who can get this done. He is the leader of the most powerful nation on earth. You are all citizens of the most powerful nation on earth, the most powerful economy, the most powerful military, and you have a president with a lot of experience because of his first term in office, and who has a clear vision on bringing this war to a durable and lasting end. He wants that. He wants to end the bloodshed. He wants to end the killing. And he knows how important it is. And this is a big deal for him, for all of us. So his leadership here is crucial. He is clearly providing it. And he has to dialogue with all the leaders. He has to dialogue with Putin. He has to dialogue with Zelensky, exactly as he did in Gaza, putting pressure on all relevant parties to get the deal done. And that's exactly what he is doing here.
Well, it seems to me one party he's not putting enough pressure on is not Russia or Ukraine, but the EU. And the Secretary General is in a tough position there. But this data out recently from the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air finds the EU's purchase of Russian energy over the last 3 years, 17 billion euros worth of oil and oil products, and $42 billion worth of LNG and pipeline gas from Russia. And, China, Turkey, Japan, South Korea, there are others here purchasing LNG, purchasing oil, purchasing coal. But, I mean, that's the problem is, at the one hand, as we've talked about, they continue to call for peace and jawbone Putin. And at the other hand, they're major clients of Russia.
Yeah, that is the long in the tent right now is Europe needs energy, and they can't seem to stop themselves from turning to Putin to get it. Some of that is in a lack of assurance that the United States will provide that and then stay with them if the administrations change, because Obama and Biden They didn't want to do that. They wanted to reel back all of America's energy exports, not crank it up. But I think that's what we have to do. America needs to step in. America needs to sell, not give, sell that energy to our allies in Europe so they can stop being dependent on Russia. And if we do that, we can actually pressure Russia to change. But short of bombing Russia, that's the big thing we have is the energy. But until we can show the Europeans that we're going to sell it to them faithfully and continually, they're going to be very nervous about it. And I understand that, but man, you can't have it both ways. You can't buy their energy and tell them to stop doing what they're doing because they got you over a barrel.
Pun intended. I mean, you're financing their war machine, and then decrying what they're doing with their war machine. I mean, it's complicated. Sergei Lavrov, Putin's foreign policy flack, this week talking about sort of reintroducing the Budapest memorandum and the agreement that the Russians say the Ukraine violated from 30 years ago, and the idea of Putin and Trump meeting in Budapest. That's a bad location because it just brings back too many bad memories. It's too traumatic for Putin to meet again in Budapest. It's very sad. It's very sensitive. And just going on and on and on, basically saying the same things. Yes, we want a ceasefire, but we know a ceasefire is just Zelensky trying to buy time. Everybody knows this. So it just doesn't. I mean, it seems like that Trump's instincts were right, that Putin is not interested in being serious at this point, maybe because the money is still flowing from the EU. But how did you read Lavrov going out and sort of recycling these old arguments that they've been using since the outset of this invasion?
Well, they continue to work. They continue to hold people off. They make it look like they're trying to do something positive when it's clear they're not. So why change your shtick if it's working? And Lavrov, dictators and their buddies tend to be able to look you straight in the eye, tell you a complete fabrication, and not have any remorse or sort of cognitive dissonance. So they're going to keep working that. So I'm unsurprised by it because until we add some additional stick to this process against Russia and against Putin, they're going to keep lying diplomatically and going right ahead militarily because there's nothing to stop them.
Although, so the oil sanctions, the energy sanctions last week, not enough in your mind? Is that what I'm gathering?
Yeah, they're not enough, and because we haven't literally replaced.
Nope, Stephen.
I'm back.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Because we haven't literally replaced Russia's energy with our energy or somebody else's energy that's legitimate, they still have the upper hand. Not going to change until they are hurt, either militarily, which we don't want to do, or economically. And that the energy is where we have to go. That's the button we need to sufficiently push. And no, what we've done thus far is not enough yet.
Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as Army Special Forces officer, top Pentagon official. Now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thank you as always.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next week.
And Stephen joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Every time I turn around, my friends at Pure Talk give me one more reason to feel good about switching. This month, for instance, they're supporting Canines for Warriors, a terrific organization that trains rescue dogs and then pairs them up with combat veterans struggling with PTSD. The result?